Hey guys, what's up? We're here with a new podcast, and we're going to be talking about some magic stuff that's happening.
Would you like to start us off?
Sure thing. So, the first thing we want to talk about is the upcoming hybrid change that Wizards is doing, specifically the Commander format panel. So, they are thinking about changing the way that they function hybrid cards in Commander, such that a card that's castable in one color or the other can be playable in those decks, as opposed to being stuck as a multicolored card for deck building. So for
I'm
cards like
confused.
Pawn,
Can we?
yeah.
Oh no, continue. Yeah, continue.
So for cards such as Pawn Prophet, it is blue and a green, two hybrid pips for a 1/1 frog creature that when it enters, draw a card. So this card mechanically can be cast as either just blue card or just a green card, especially in draft and standard. So if you only have islands in your deck, you can cast Pawn Prophet in your deck. But in Commander, you can only put this card in a deck with blue and green as color identity. So the
Yeah.
change is
When
that.
you said, oh no, continue.
So with the change, currently you can only play Pawn Prophet in like a Gralnock deck, but with this change, you could play it in a Brago list if you wanted to, and have it be one of your flicker targets.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know that I'm fully on board with it. I mean, obviously, it's going to create a couple of problems. But before I continue, though, who exactly is even in charge of like Commander anymore?
So to answer your question, there has been a new panel. Previously, we had the Commander Rules Community, which is, as people like to lovingly call, a bunch of unpaid interns. Sheldon
Yeah,
Menery was previously the helm of that, and then he passed away
yeah,
sadly to cancer.
yeah,
And then there were other
yeah. And then
people.
they nuked it because they banned some cards that people didn't want banned.
Exactly.
And sent them death threats so badly that they had to basically tear it all apart.
Pretty much.
Unfortunately, I mean everybody quit because they were getting death threats because people didn't like that their mana vault. What was it?
It was
Vault
Mana
got banned.
Crypt. It was
Mana
Dockside
crypt.
Extortionist, Nadu, Winged Wisdom, and
Yeah,
Blue Lotus. And people did not
yeah,
like that. Now,
yeah,
that's a different conversation. Obviously, they could have had some tack with it. They kind of just came out the gate swinging with those bans instead of giving the hint, which I think that was, at least for me, my really big criticism. I don't mind that they're banned, but it's a little unfair that they just kind of didn't really communicate. And that's something that's changed with the Commander format panel. So Gavin Verhey is at the helm of this. All the
okay,
people that you remember, like Olivia
okay,
Gilbert Hicks and Rachel Weeks, those people that you see all the time on your Commander
yeah,
shows, they're also a part
yeah,
of the format, and they're here to basically talk about. They're very open. They're going to talk about what's going on with the format, what could be changed, what is being changed, and they're usually very transparent about what they're doing. And yeah,
yeah. I think I th so the there are there are some arguments. I'll let you read some of the arguments we have written down.
so we'll talk about my beliefs after this, but here are the arguments against the hybrid change that I've seen just talking with people online, seeing videos, etc., etc. So one of the big things is that hybrid cards will create staples or more popular, just playable cards that homogenize deck building and make deck building a little bit easier. On that point, I want to say most of the hybrid cards, if not 99.99% of them, are pretty niche in application or just weak in power. You know, maybe you
Yeah,
have a random extra turns, extra combat spell that you can play in mono white, and that's magically a good card. You know, but even stuff like Chroma's will kind of cheats that effects, right? Or Moonshaker Cavalry, that just you play them and your opponent explodes. You know,
yeah.
what do you say about that?
I think the homogenization of deck building in a casual format is like it's very easy to get extremely cynical about, especially as people who play, competitive formats. I think it's really, really easy to get cynical about that because the homogenization of deck building, like, I don't know, is it really a problem when the point is to have fun? If a lot of people maybe I'm getting really off base here, but it doesn't homogenization like is are hybrid cards going to become so popular to the point that they get annoying? Because that would be like it would be overly good or some kind of negative play pattern, and I don't think that there's a single hybrid card that I can name that would really fit either of those criterias. Because you have to think that the last commander ban that was a ban for homogeneity was what was his name? Tolos, Lothos,
Golos, Talos Pilgrim.
Golos, yeah, Golos. So the last one that was banned for homogeneity was Golos, right? Because it was a colorless commander that was randomly five color. It paid its commander debt off, or its commander tax off by ramping, and then had a basically just like a Wooburg slop play the best cards ability, right? It's really funny. Like this is kind of red herringy, but none of those cards were hybrid. I think homogenizes deck building is definitely a stretch to say the least.
Yes. I think it's also important to say, like, people don't really acknowledge when they talk about Golos how much has changed since it was banned. We've had so many more cards printed for Commander for the format. Um, we've had all these precons. We had Commander Legends, Commander Legends 2, a lot of good
Yeah.
reprints to make these cards more accessible. There's just a lot of, even in the main sets for like expansions, it feels like a part of that set skeleton now, where every standard set just has a 5 color commander where you put all the
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
connections together.
I think Golos probably could not be unbanned. I think it is a good ban for homogeneity, uh, personally. But like for the reasons why Golos can't come back are definitely not the reasons for why hybrid can't change, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah. So there's a couple cards people have been sort of pointing their thumbs at, their thumbs down, so to speak, on. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beseech the Queen is one of them. So I'll read Beseech the Queen for those
Yeah,
who are listening. So it is.
please do.
It has this card is uniquely two-brided, not hybrid, in the sense that instead of another color in the hybrid cost, you can also pay 2 generic. So it's either 2 generic or black 3 times, so either 6 mana or 3 black pips for a
Or
sorcery.
some combination.
Yes, for you can search your library for a card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So normally, in every other format, this card is generically playable. It's just like a One Ring. It's just like a Mind Stone. You can put this in any deck, and you can cast it within reason. If it is obviously not that good in general, but especially if you're passing for the colorless cost, there is an incentive to play it in black because you're paying half the mana cost, and it's
Yeah.
otherwise a pretty neat tutor. There's some concern that if you make this splashable in, for example, a mono white deck, you can play cards like Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth to make your lands produce black mana, or you can create treasure tokens to help pay that cost.
Yeah.
And it becomes, oh, you just have a soft demonic tutor in your mono white deck, which kind of quote unquote doesn't feel right.
I understand that not feeling right, but even that example, in my opinion, sounds like it adds so much. Like that sounds so interesting. That does like if you're in a mono white deck and you're going out of your way to find ways to squeeze black mana so you can run one card, like I don't see the homogeneity in that. That sounds like almost inventive, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And it's also just bad. Like we don't have to pretend like any of these hybrid cards are breaking any formats, like even remotely.
yeah,
Even on top of that, colorless is so like kind of devoid of meaningful identity in a lot of ways. Like there are already 6 mana demonic tutors. Like I forget what the one card is called, but there's the card Wishclaw Talisman is based on. It's like a 5 mana rock. It enters with 3 counters, and you can pay 5 and remove a wish counter from it to demonic tutor.
that's Ring of Three
Like that's
Wishes.
yeah. So that card like already exists, right? They point at ones like There's the Sultai two-brid card that like destroys a non-land permanent. Like Meteor Golem already exists. It colorless is two-brid is a really bad one to point at as an example of colors being able to just do anything if you move into two-brid because big giant colorless spells can basically already do anything.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get that. We'll get into that pretty soon. We're talking about
Okay.
two-brid and just the hybrid in
Yeah,
general.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, just in general, I feel like Beseech the Queen. When people talk about this card, they're usually not talking about how hybrid is in Pi. So they'll bring it up like it doesn't feel right within color identity, but the crux of the argument is this card will be too good. It'll be too powerful. It will make deck
Yeah,
building
I mean,
less enjoyable.
as somebody who's played, has tried Beseech the Queen in modern, a more powerful format, running what is it, Omori sorceries, the Golgari deck, you you can best believe Beseech the Queen is not a fantastic card. Like obviously, demonic tutors are far stronger in a format like Commander. I'm not trying to equivocate that by any means, but I don't think your local mono green deck getting access to Beseech the Queen is doing anything more than Yisan Wandering Bard is already capable of.
Yeah. The other example we can point out to before we go on a long tangent, Lurrus the Dream Den. Obviously a very
Yeah.
powerful card. So this is one. This is for 3 mana, 1 generic, 2 white black hybrid mana pips. Companion, each permanent card in your starting deck has mana value 2 or less. So if you meet these criteria, you can cast this from outside the game by first paying 3 mana, putting it into your hand. And
Yeah.
it's a 3/2 with lifelink. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard. So the idea is
Yeah.
that any white deck, any black deck can play this either in your companion zone, which people have argued for or against, and the main board, which people are also either for or against.
Yeah, I mean obviously the it's kind of hard to argue about Luris because it's companion is obviously just so busted in every format that it's legal in and very strange that companion was an exception to the wish board in Commander. It's yeah, like Yorion is probably a playable card in every blue and white deck. Luris is probably a playable card in every white and black deck. Uh, I mean, that's probably the extent of those. I could definitely see it being worrying, but people already have a really negative opinion of Luris, and it's not like your Brago list is getting a lot, or well, what like Felia in the command zone is getting a lot by gaining access to Yorion in the main board. It's just like people are. It's just conjecture. It's just conjecture.
Yeah.
Like people are arguing so much of any which way of things being broken one way or another. It's too impossible to say. And even if you like, the more experience you have playing this game, the less likely it seems like that they're going to have a high impact. Like, name one hybrid card that's ever been played in CDH, probably like ever. Like,
At,
that's what I would point to.
at best, you have something like Ashok Dreamrender, which is sort of a tutor hate, search hate, graveyard hate
Yeah,
sort of card.
that would be a good card. Would be a good card to get access to in a lot of more quite a few more decks.
And
But
it's also Planeswalker, so in casual play, you can just swing at it.
yeah,
And at
yeah.
best, at worst, it's an implication for the negative for a competitive format that most people don't play, and the people who do play will probably not be bugged by it because the card is already fringe at best.
I see in
So
the notes here we have one thing that I would like to point out too. There is a strange edge case. I don't really know how they ever fully defined Commander like color identity. It's a little weird, right? So, what's the little banana tokens guy? Kubo, Kaibo?
yes,
Yeah, Kibo, is that what it is?
Kibo,
Kibo. Okay, so Kibo is
Utabi Prince.
a Gruul card, right?
Yes, let me read the
So
text
it's a
as well.
Gruul. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is Kibo Utabi Prince, 2 and a green, legendary creature, monkey noble. The relevant text here, it says tap, each player creates a colorless artifact token named banana with, quote, tap, sacrifice this token, add red or green, you gain 2 life, end quote. And the key thing about this card is it's not a predefined token like clues or treasures or blood tokens where they're not codified in the game rules as shorthand. these are tokens only made by Kibo, and thus all the rules text is part of Kibo's rule text, not the banana. So it is a red
Yeah,
and a green card since the banana creates red or green.
yeah, that's actually a bad example on my part. If you remember the jumpstart sets have like mono green cards that happen to have an ability that is either green or black, like the insect commander, or the mono black commander that has a Rakdos ability. I forget what their names are off the top of my head. So one those would be, despite the fact that the color of the card is just black, those cards are considered to be each of their colors
Yes. Zask
because of the
Skittering
color
Swarmlord is also for the same thing. The main thing we're talking about, it has an off mana hybrid cost, so 1 green and black for target insect gets +1/+0 and gains that touch. It's in a turn. So because it has a black pip somewhere on the card, it will be considered to be a Golgari card for color identity.
Yeah. So it's just a little strange in my opinion how they handle color versus color identity like in general because that card that we just listed is for the purposes of like protection from green, it is just a green card. It's not a green and a black card. But on the other end, like in your notes here, you say Lurrus being played in mono white but isn't targetable to Doomblade. It's a black card.
Yes. So the thing
So
is, the reason these cards are designed the way they are is they serve a different function outside of the commander format. By the way, I apologize. I'm sorry that people want to play other formats, but some cards are designed for not commander. Unfortunately, in the case of Jumpstart, these are packs that you can put together to make a deck. You don't have to draft or anything, so they're very easy for new players. So for the insect pack, it's like a green blackish deck, but Zas being playable in mono green means it's a lot easier for the player who is mixing their decks to be able to cast their spells instead of it being black pipped. Because the card functionally you can do everything in green. You can activate the ability for green, you can cast it for green. But if you want to play this as your commander, then you can also get that black identity, play all the black insects in your deck. So hybrid
yeah,
is sort of like a cute little toy to pinch and twist some knobs to let your cards be more playable in commander.
yeah. I think there's a happy medium for cards like this. I think the cards that are I think the happy medium that a lot of people would be sated with is just making it so I think the color identity could be changed to where it's just the color of the card and or well, I guess that doesn't work with the void.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like obviously it's not a perfect solution. You're gonna have weird edge cases where a card is predefined as black in the way that Lurrus is a black and a white card, but it can literally be either white or black, and that was the intent. So you should theoretically it's a card that doesn't have a minimum cost of except white or black, right? So it's in theory a white or black card, and it could go into a white or black commander deck. But obviously, it is a weird edge case that, for example, Doomblade would not kill Lurrus. So I see where people are coming from on that one.
Yeah. So the way that the change is going to be implemented, the idea is that the colors will stay the same. The function of the cards within the game itself is not changing. The change is strictly for deck building. So any cards that have hybrid costs will be playable in decks. Will be included in decks at the same way that they are in other formats. So if you're playing Zask, this can be in a mono green deck. But if this is your commander, the Zask card can be played as your commander, and you'll have green and black in your identity. I think the solution is just to leave things as is. Let the Lurrus not be killable to Doomblade. This is just a thing that happens in every game or in every format in this game. Besides Commander, it's usually not an issue that people are confused with more than once. It's something you have to learn as you play the game, and I think that's pretty reasonable. And I understand the sentiment of it being confusing. It's changing the way that the game works for people who are used to it and comfortable with it. And change in general is scary and confusing, right? Anything that
Yeah.
we do to the format, even like making vehicles legal as commander, obviously much less of an increase in cards. But people had to learn about that. People who
Yeah.
came back after Edge of Eternities came out, that they're not in the know. They're like, oh, I just started playing Spider-Man. I didn't know you could play the RMS Titanic as your commander. This is weird.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah.
Commander in general. Is just a very fast evolving format, and I think change is okay when the change itself is reasonable, and we'll get to why it is later.
Yeah, I mean, I think to stay on this topic before we move, finally, we can move on in a second. I got one last thing to say. A change like this is not doing what a lot of people fear that it's going to be doing. It's not making Commander more complicated. It is actually it. I mean, maybe it's making it more complicated. You do technically have to learn that there are exceptions, but you it is like definitionally more lenient, and that doesn't feel like an opinion, right? If Lurrus is playable now in black and white decks, and then all of a sudden it becomes playable in any deck that is both black or white or both, or sorry, it's any deck that is black or white or both. It's that is actually more lenient. That's less rules baggage that you have to associate, right? In my opinion, am I very off base for thinking that?
No, I mean that's reasonable. That's just how the game plays. I think it's confusing in the sense that Commander players have to learn something new, and it's less confusing in that the people who are coming into the game or are familiar with the game from formats not Commander based will just have an easier time adapting. If you started
Yeah.
playing with the Avatar beginner box, which has hybrid spells, and they play their make a Commander deck with those cards, it'll be a plug in and play instead of having to learn the exception of wait, you can't play that Avatar and card in this deck because it's
Yeah.
got two colors. I would argue
I
that
mean,
itself is confusing.
yeah. I mean, hybrid cards are just a confusing mechanic in general.
Yeah.
Like, it can just be that easy. There's actually a funny one here in the notes about 2 lines back. It visually clashes with the other cards in your deck. That is kind of a funny one. I will give people the kudos on that one that it is, in fact, kind of visually ugly if your mono green opponent casts a Gruul hybrid card. I can give them that much.
Yeah. I think I am less personally peeved by it because it happens all the time when you're playing other formats. There's a lot of
Yeah,
hybrid cards being cast, off color cards being cast,
yeah.
split cards. Sometimes you might just
Fetch
not be
lands.
casting fire, ice. Yeah, fetch lands being off color. I think it kind of ties into the other thing I wrote down where it sort of like erodes the color identity. I think people sort of have less of a. I don't want to dismiss it as illogical, but the reasoning people have against the change is more so an emotional attachment to the way things are, the way that things feel, and the change sort of puts that off base of that comfortness that the format has with having a mono green deck with all your cool green cards, and then you suddenly have to play it. You feel like you're obligated to play a Kitchen Finks, and oh, it's got white now, and that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have this be like a gotcha to that argument, but people who argue eroding the color identity, these cards already exist, right? Like that people point out the Boros Goblin, the little 1 mana that can be cast for either white or red. That it's like a 1 mana 1/1
Yes.
Boros Goblin, and that's it, right? Like, you, how are we eroding the color identity by allowing a card to be played as intended? Like, you argue that you're bringing in a red white goblin into your mono white go wide deck. Like, that's already something you can do in every other format. Like, the card is in a way a white goblin. The color
Yes.
identity is just all over the place with hybrid cards. Like, kind of period.
Yes.
That's not oh, what would be the word? That's not a problem that Gavin Verhey like just invented yesterday.
Yeah. I think the other thing is that kind of argument bleeds into every time I say that's how that works in draft, in sealed, in standard, legacy, pioneer, pauper. People say, well, this is commander. It doesn't have to be 60 cards. It doesn't have to be draft. Why it gets commander? It's different. And I usually follow it up with a question. What about commander, the structure of the format, the way that the game plays, and the way that deck building is handled, makes it so that the rule has to be different. in Commander specifically? And usually the answer I get is something along the lines of because that's what the colors are, or that is what the color identity rules say. Which I don't want to mischaracterize people's arguments, but it does bleed a little bit into, that's just the way that things are. That's what the rules say, so that's what we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go with.
yeah. It's just an appeal to tradition. It's just this was how the rules were written originally. I don't want to change them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think I don't really have a way to elaborate on that. I think what you're saying and what I've heard is a lot of the times just veiled appeals to tradition. I think a lot of people's arguments boil down to it was written this way, ergo, that's how things are. I think it is sometimes that easy.
Let's go on. I think we talked about card strength. We talked about. Okay, let's talk
I think our
about
next one is,
the slippery slope because I think we talked about the rest of these.
yeah, like the
So
Phyrexian mana one.
so there's an argument that the EDH Recast made in their video talking about their opposal against the hybrid change. Their main point is when you allow hybrid cards to be flexible and then you allow two brick cards to be flexible, you sort of create this question of, well, if you allow this change to happen, why can't you change hybrid spells being cast? Why can't you change transforming dual face cards, like the werewolves from Innistrad? Why can't you change the split cards, the fuse cards from Ravnica? So, and then there's also like free spells like Pact of Negation, which technically in any other format you can just cast in any deck because there's no mana cost.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like what I like to call a slippery slope argument. I'm not sure how accurate that is. You can correct me on that, but
No,
that's
I
just
mean,
how I feel
I
about it.
think you're correct. I think it is literally just, I mean, what you described is exactly the slippery slope fallacy. It's, okay, well, if we make this change, well, surely this other change has to follow. And that's just non sequitur. It's alarmists, alarmism, sort of. Specifically with Phyrexian mana, though, like I guess we shouldn't get into the weeds. Like clearly they don't really mean that they want Phyrexian spells. I mean, they don't want Phyrexian spells to be in every deck, and I don't think anybody does. Um, Not that they would be playable anyways, but it is. I mean, again, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just slippery slope fallacy. I think commander players, like, obviously I covered it in my video. I think commander players are just in a very strange spot where they, I think it has to do a lot with COVID. I think they have a very tight knit, it's not fully a closed circle, but a lot of commander players interact with commander players. They interact with commander media. They're on the commander subreddits. It's commander, 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 commander. They're getting their opinions from people who also only get their opinions from commander players.
Yeah.
I think
There's a
it's a
funny word
very
for this.
densely packed environment.
You know what
Go
we call
ahead.
this? An echo chamber.
Yeah, that would be the less polite way of saying it for sure.
And we want to reiterate, we don't hate Commander and we don't hate Commander players. Okay, we don't just
Yeah,
vehemently hate everybody, but this is specifically a criticism against the beliefs of that population.
yeah. I mean, that's really funny. I love Commander, and if you cannot tell by interacting with any sort of the media that I produced for 1 second, I fucking adore Lurrus. Sorry, we could probably cut that out. I really, really adore Lurrus. I probably would be. Oh no, I wouldn't probably be excited. I'd probably be running in some kind of Esper deck tomorrow if the change happened in that way. Uh, like I'm a part of the Commander community. I'm not a diehard by any means. I interact with Standard a lot more. I probably historically interacted with Modern a lot more. I've interacted with Legacy and Pauper a lot.
Yeah,
And Commander just seems to be in a unique place where it's just Commander players interacting with Commander players who only interact with Commander players. And I think it makes it like we're wrapping around to the point I was trying to make originally that I think an environment like that makes it very, very easy to lead to these kind of logical fallacies. And obviously, the slippery slope is, a very, very iconic logical fallacy. If one thing goes wrong that I disagree with, the world is going to turn to shit. The next thing is going to go wrong, and then the next thing is going to follow that, and then everything is going to be bad.
Yeah, and then the one thing I wanted to say about even to that argument, let's say in the hypothetical that is what happens if it happens. We don't have to change the hybrid change for permanently for good. They can
Yeah.
roll this back. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we go back to how things were. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's like you can say why change in the first place, but it's good to change formats, change the format in a way that seems good. See how things go. If it is for the better, Wizards. We can talk about this later, but Wizards has a way better time printing cards in a way that they don't have to push them and make them super broken like a VV or a One Ring does, and they can make them, unanimous with the power level of draft and standard to make them fun but not powerful. If it does work, and it does make sense for dual face cards, specifically transforming ones, I think that would be a great change. Honestly, it's weird that some hybrid cards like Tameo Inquisitive Student can't be cast in a mono blue deck despite doing things that mono blue can do.
Yeah.
The only reason you can is because there's a funny little green circle on the back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have Suspicious Stowaway, which is one in a blue for a 1/1 unblockable. That when it hits you, you draw a card. When you flip it on the back, same thing, right? These things, these transforming cards are in Pi for blue. Yet,
Yeah.
you cannot cast them in a mono blue deck because of the mere fact that they wanted to color them. Specifically, Tameo, some sort of like cool design with caring about green cards, but especially with the Stowaway and the just in general the Intershot cards, it's for flavor to represent. Hey, it's a green werewolf. It's a monster. It's not a human anymore, right? And that back and
Yeah.
forth. But the greenness identity of the Stowaway just has no relevance to the 90% of the mechanical bearing, minus some random stuff that hates on green cards. But for the most
Yeah.
part, it just doesn't really make sense to me. I think we should be open to questioning the way that the format is. That's my thesis statement.
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of the people you made a point at the beginning of that sentence about basically experimentation. I think a lot of people who are vitriolic about this change, like, are kind of really in a tunnel vision, right? Y- We have an experimental commander brackets system. Like they're pulling cards in one thing and then putting it in somewhere else the next day. One day this, one day that. We're in an experimental phase. So the people who are, catastrophizing that like the game is going to end tomorrow if they make this change really are missing like the forest for the trees, right? Like you,
Yes.
you really have like some horse blinders on. You're walking around not really understanding what's going on. Like people who are catastrophizing that this is the end of EDH, that we are going to fall down a downward slope. The stuff hasn't even happened yet. Like
Yeah.
people are talking about this change like it has happened. They said it as like a proposal for something that they could do.
Yeah. I think in general, it's just. I mean, I'm going to get into this later. I feel like people are just. Oh, how do I say this nicely? I don't want to see people are. They are uneducated, which is not a bad thing. I feel like people are just misinformed about how the way that cards are designed, the way that cards are balanced, the way that the format is managed, and the way that the ideas of the format that the format was built upon. There's just a misunderstanding about how these play together and how they work, how the wheels turn in this machine, right? The cogs. And as a result, people just are afraid of change in general, and especially with change that they feel like my decks are just I have to play this card. I have to add all these cards into my deck, otherwise my deck is terrible. You know, there all these decks are just gonna become boring. It is catastrophizing. People are just over exaggerating things that in general they don't understand. Which I mean, this is just in general like how society is, just how life is. Like people, if you don't
Yeah.
understand something, it's scary to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole different podcast to talk about this subject, right? But like,
Yeah.
the more you understand things, the less scary they become. Especially with
Yeah.
like the example is constructed play, right? People talk about like standard being a turn 3 format. Oh, if you don't play anything on turn 3, you just die, right? And you will
Yeah,
learn that is quickly you will learn that is not the case when you play the
yeah,
format.
extremely quickly.
So, any closing statements on that before I continue?
No, but I really think this point about Leyline of the Guild Pact exists and is confusing. That that card just sucks, okay? That card
Yeah.
is just stupid. Like, yes, that's a perfect example of a card that is like Wooburg slop.
Yes.
Like that's not something that would be made worse necessarily by the change. Like that card is already the worst possible kind of design space for exactly the reason. Like that card is kind of the pinnacle of like boring every color good card slop. Like it really that like you're
Yeah.
pointing at the worst possible thing that people already know is a terrible design and saying everything will be like that when
Yeah.
that's just one card. And like yeah, people already know that it
What is
sucks.
that? It's like scapegoating or something to assume one thing is
Yeah,
bad.
I don't know. I don't know what the term for that is, but
It's
it
like
is
the rotten
definitely
apple of the bunch.
yeah, basically.
I think
But
what
I
I was
do
trying to
agree
say
with
with
the
that point. Uh,
yeah, go
oh, you
ahead.
can continue.
No, no, go ahead.
So what I kind of like made it funny, but what I was writing down there. So I was talking. Someone was talking to me, or not just one person, a couple people. They're like,
Yeah,
"Hey, sometimes these hybrid cards, like, what can I cast this for? This is confusing. I don't understand what I can cast this for." And then they
yeah,
multiple times they posted exactly laying on it the guild pact. How can I cast
yeah,
this? What are all the variations of this? The simple answer for you guys at home, you can cast this for any variation of green, or you can swap it. You can for each green pip, you can swap it out for a non-green pip. So you can cast
yeah.
this for green, 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 black, black, red, green, green, black, red, blue, green, green, and etc. etc. Right.
Yeah, a short answer is to his question is basically we still haven't figured it out. That card sucks.
Yeah. There is
That card is
I think there is not a card close to it that is just nearly as weird. Even the split cards you can't. Like there's no fuse cards I think that have hybrid mana.
yeah,
And
they should just have never designed that card. That card literally is just what if you got to play every color and you got to spend every mana to cast it? That card is just a bad. It's just a terrible example to point to as something bad when people already know that it's terrible.
yeah, I mean there's not much to say there, right? Uh
Yeah.
Wizards makes mistakes all the time, and I mean a quick look, there is about 300 cards being printed this year. I think that is including commander precons. That is including
Oh,
all of
hybrid
the
cards?
just cards in general. There's a lot of cards being printed. So uh, this is not including variants. This is just cards that are printed this year in 2025, excluding reprints. There were 2,004 cards being printed this year, not including the cards that have yet to be spoilered. When you make 2,000 of literally anything ever, you will make a mistake eventually. The sample size is
Yeah.
so big. There are so many moving cogs. Wizards is making 6 sets a year, and they are not really hiring that many more people to handle. In fact, Chris Cox, CEO of Hasbro, is laying off people from Wizards. He did it about a year ago during Christmas. Just laid off a bunch of people in order to pay himself a little bit more. You know, when people get mad at designers for not doing their job when really it's management's fault for
Yeah,
not giving
Chris
them the
Cox is a
space to make.
douchebag.
Yeah. So you create a scenario where you get a VV Ornatier that they didn't realize. Oh shit, Cauldron. I got the Soul Cauldron. You can exile Vivi with it to give a creature 0, add X mana of any color, combination of blue or red, where X is its power. Oops.
And a
Here's a
counter.
and a counter on top of that by tapping
Yeah.
Akathis for that own ability. You know, they don't have the resources or the time to fact check 2,000 cards to make sure there isn't a random ass card printed from 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whenever Wilds of Eldrin came out, which was
Yeah.
probably supposed to be rotated out, but they made the change to make it 3 year standard. That's a whole different
Yeah.
tangent. Point is, Leyland Guild Pack, shitty design. Don't blame Wizards for that. That shit's gonna happen eventually. Like you're just gonna print a stupid card eventually, here and
Don't
there.
blame design, blame Chris Cox because all of the money that could go to playtesting is going to making sure he can get his third yacht.
Yeah. I mean, small anecdote, like what Mark Rosewater talked about during either drift design, they were crunched for time. They didn't have the manpower or the time to fully test out all the cards in the set and make it a good design because they were struggling to, get ready for Final Fantasy
Yeah.
and everything else that was
Meanwhile,
upcoming.
Final Fantasy would go on to make a quadrillion dollars,
Yeah,
and I'm
two
sure
hundred million in
95,
pre-orders alone.
yeah, I'm sure 95% of it went to everybody who besides design, and 95% of that is not going to future design, unfortunately. Not to get overly doomer about it.
And that's just the reality of things. Other than that, I don't see any other hybrid card that is nearly as confusing. Maybe there's just a lot of pips, but like, I mean,
Yeah, you could get
any,
like the MKM like split hybrids
yeah,
that are pretty annoying, but like come on. I'm tired of pretending like people can't figure this stuff out. We live in the age of information. Every single human being has a phone if you're playing Commander and you're sitting at a table with three other thinking human beings that have phones and play Commander. Like
yeah.
surely we can figure this out.
It's like I get to have my one reductive argument, right? Commander is confusing. All the rules
Yes.
are confusing. There's so many random things you just have to learn and figure out. And when you get hit with a confusing rule set, like, oh, I can deal damage with my commander even though it's face down because it's the qualityness of commander, of it being a commander. Like, that's weird. That's confusing. That makes me upset when I lose to it as a new player. That is just things you have to learn. And this is just one thing you have to learn, which is not even nearly as complicated as just the niche interactions with commander damage or commander attacks. Just in general, what is and isn't contributing to your color identity. Right, that's confusing in and of itself. I
Yeah.
think personally, which I'll get into later, this will make it more alleviating. But
I mean, like the mathematical, metaphor that I made last time, it theoretically only makes it more alleviating. Lurrus in black and white decks versus Lurrus in any deck that is black, white, or both.
yes. Um, is there anything else to add? Go ahead.
No, I think I'm ready to move to the next one. If
So
you
we
want
have
the
people
things.
talking about hybrid cards being pie breaks. So there are a
I think
random
we,
assortion of cards that break the pie that are from specifically Lorwyn block. I want to make clear that Return of Ravnica, Ravnica City of Guilds, was the set to originally create a hybrid. This was in 2005. A small history lesson is that Mark Rosewater, one of the lead designers of Magic, wanted to give some multicolor in general, some more spice, and ask the question: what if multicolor instead of being an and was an or? Right. So all the
yeah,
cards that are hybrid that can do things in pie exactly in either one color or the other color or in each color in the case of three hybrids, right? For
yeah.
example, we can point at the new spoiler card Abandoned Attachments from Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is an instant lesson. It's for one and a hybrid blue-red, so total 2 mana. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. Blue and red are both able to discard cards or draw cards. The sort of minutia of it is that technically red is rummaging, which is discard or draw, and then blue does looting, which is draw then discard. But overall, it's not a big deal if you break off from that a little bit, as long as the card is drawing to discard or discarding to draw. Right. So Abandoned Attachments is in pie. It is not breaking the color pie. If anything, it is demonstrating the color pie to new players who might be confused about what colors can do what. Oh, blue and red can both discard to draw. We can say white and black both can exile creatures, right? With Exhume. It's for 3 mana each is a white and black pip. Exile target creature as an instant. This is in
Okay,
pie for both white and black.
I think you said Exhume for the title of that. What is
I
it?
did.
Exhume? The reanimate?
Oh, is it the reanimation spell?
No, I mean I know what card you're talking about. The black white black white black white. I don't think it's called Exhume.
It is called. Let me find it. It is called Unmake. I'm sorry. It is called. It's
Unmake,
spelled
yeah.
as Unmake for 3 mana. So this card is in Pi for both white and black. Obviously, there are some very specific handful of cards from within the Lorwyn block, like Shadowmoor, that don't exactly apply to the color Pi, and were it was sort of still in the infancy of hybrid when they were still trying to figure things out. The cards are more so designed as multicolor. I believe there is a small anecdote I couldn't find the source for, but someone has told me about Sheldon Menery's interaction with Augury Adept. So this card is this is 3 mana, 1 generic, and then 2 white-blue hybrid pips for creature Kithkin Wizard 2/2. When this creature deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put it in your hand. You gain life equal to its current mana cost. This is a break because white cannot really draw cards freely like that, and blue cannot gain life whatsoever. In the case of white, it is a bend. White can still draw cards given that criteria, but as a Saboteur trigger, a dealing combat damage trigger, it's very uncanny. In the case of blue, it just doesn't gain life ever. There's some old cards that do it, like Illusion of Grandeur, but those are breaks.
Yeah.
The key thing my rule of thumb for Color Pie is that if the card was not printed after, during or after 2021, it is not a very good precedent for whether or not something is in Pie.
Yeah. The anecdote being mentioned, by the way, I don't think you actually elaborated on it. What the anecdote was, Sheldon Menery apparently was so upset at the fact that Augury Adept was effectively a mono white card that could draw cards, that was what influenced the change to make it so that the card would have to be both. He was basically saying that the card, in effect, has to be a blue and white card.
So, with some context here. So Shadowmoor was printed in 2008. Ravnica City of Guilds, where Hybrid premiered, was printed in 2005, 3 years prior to the change that Sheldon Menery added.
Yeah. It also this was still fairly early Magic, and Shadowmoor Lorwyn were strange sets. It's really, really hard to point at old things and try to mark a precedent when very clearly in modern quote unquote Magic things, just simply work vastly differently.
Yeah.
I think the new hybrid change just more or less faces how the cards work now. What's that? Cease and desist? Cease and desist is probably very exemplary for how hybrid cards work in the modern quote unquote era.
Yes. So
it's both of those. Yeah, go ahead.
In the image, but the idea is that cease for either green or black can exile cards from a graveyard to gain life and draw a card. Both in Pi, both cards can hate on the graveyard, both cards can cantrip, both cards can gain life. And then desist is 6 mana for a white-green hybrid sweeper for artifacts and enchantments, so it can destroy all of them on the battlefield. White and green both have naturalize. White has disenchant, and green has naturalize, respectively. So both of them are known to hate on both artifacts and enchantments. So technically, in every other format, cease and desist are not doing anything that is irrespective of the Pi.
Yeah, I think the change is basically facing how the hybrid is designed now. I think there's an argument to say that Augury Adept, in Lorwyn, Shadowmoor was a card that was blue and white, in effect. A lot of these cards, like you said, are basically cards that are those two colors. They played a little fast and loose with the rules and were making hybrid cards without making hybrid cards, or two color cards without making two color cards. But you're also still not you, just generally rhetorically, you're still arguing from conjecture because we obviously don't have a source to say who was designing and with what intent 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. We just don't know what was going on.
I mean, back then, Richard Garfield printed Pyroblast because he thought it was cool that you could counter a blue spell with a red spell. And then, you could have a cool wizard battle between blue and red. In practice, Pyroblast, one of the most powerful counter spells ever, just in general, and specifically in red, it's the best counter spell by far. Things have changed. It's been 30 years of design, more than that.
Yeah. It's been 30 years and we consistently keep entering what feels like new modern eras, right? Like when was 10th edition? Like 2000 and let's see.
10th edition was printed in 2007.
2007. So like this is considered modern era, right? And that's like a year before Lorwyn. And even this feels so distant as to say like I don't even really think like the new modern era of Magic design was I mean probably for I don't even know, at least another 5 or 7 years after that. When did the new modern border come in?
I believe that was an 8th edition.
No, I mean like there was one even after the Lorwyn cards, right? Like Lorwyn is not considered the most recent order, I think. Am I crazy?
The black. If you're talking about when the black border was introduced, that was 8th edition. If you're talking about sort of a modernizing of the frame, that would come a little bit later. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it was Magic. I'm looking it up right now. I think they changed it in 2015 to become what would be like considered like the most recent.
You talk about the modern frame, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about like the like yeah, I'm talking about the newest modern frame because like 8th edition is modern Magic design, but it even looks and feels so strange compared to now.
Yeah, I think we can point to Magic 2015 as sort of a modernizing of the frame. One of those sets of
Yeah, and I
cards.
would say even like it's I think Magic 2015 is even like considered considerably more modern, quote, in its design than Lorwyn was, 7 years earlier,
Yeah.
right? So this is all to say that TLDR, Magic changes a lot. It's like virtually impossible to cite precedents, give or
Yes.
take, like 10 years ago.
So, I mean, obviously, there's the argument of death of the author, right? These cards still exist. Um, I'm gonna explain the second meaning of death of the author here,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
later on. But people are saying like, oh well, I mean, Augury Adept, it still exists. It's still in the format. What are we gonna do about it? You're gonna let it be played in white and blue decks? I think people don't understand that they're playing a color break format, a color pie break format, and
Yeah, I
benchmark.
mean you're playing in the green counterspells format, black counterspells format.
You
Like
have
it
seed
is.
time to go take an extra turn in green, which green cannot do. You have Beast Within to destroy permanents, which green cannot do. It can't just destroy creatures without having a creature in play, right? You have Chaos Warp, which allows red to destroy, or not destroy, but get rid of enchantments, which red cannot do, right? You are playing a format where people play breaks as just a way of life, as the way that people engage with the game, and people think this is just how Commander is, right? So their only argument you can make is why add more of them, and the answer for me is it's not a big deal. The cards are very underpowered.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the end of the argument. There's nowhere you can really go. Like Augury Adept is just terrible.
I mean, the continuation of that argument is just more catastrophizing and slippery slopes. It's okay, well, if they make them playable in more decks, well, that's creating a synthetic demand in some way, and Wizards will print broken cards for hybrid.
Ooh.
Uh, like, Wizards is just going to print broken cards no matter what.
Yeah. So
It,
we can
is
actually
that,
jump
is,
into that. But first, I want to
yeah, is that,
also talk about Beseech the Queen and Tubrid. This is another thing people are talking are breaks. They're saying it doesn't make sense that white can get an efficient tutor in their decks. So here's two things. Colorless does not have a color pie adhere like rule to adhere to necessarily other than this. Colorless can do everything that colors can do just at a higher tax.
yeah,
Usually they can be with restrictions, it can be with conditions, but most of the time it is with cost. So, for example, Introduction to Annihilation is 5 generic for a sorcery that can destroy a non-land any non-land permanent in colorless. That's something that you would see with like Stroke of Midnight for white that can replace it with a 1/1 token. White does it way
yeah,
better, but colorless can do it, but they're paying way more mana to do it. So in this regard, colorless having a tutor, like you talked about, Ring of Three Wishes, What
Yeah.
colorless can do, what Beseech the Mayor is doing, Beseech the Queen is doing. This is normal. It's not a color
Colorless can
break.
basically do anything.
So yes, as long as it doesn't undermine what the color is doing, it's not a break. And then we get to the argument
Yeah.
of, well, if I'm playing Urborg to my Yawgmoth, if I'm making treasures, if I'm playing cards that produce black in my deck, I'm playing Cydia Brass, and I'm casting it for black, it's basically a break because I'm paying the unintended cost. And I would argue that is not how that works at all. You can play an Azorius deck in Modern, and you can splash Beseech the Mirror or Beseech the Queen and cast it if you wanted to. That's not you breaking the rules of the format. That is you going out of your way to meet the conditions to play the colorless card in a way that is
Yeah, that's actually a
convenient.
fantastic point. You you are literally meeting the requirements of the card by doing that. If you found a way to generate a treasure token in your mono white deck so that you can play Beseech the Queen, you're not breaking the rules. You're obeying the rules just in a strange way, or what
Yeah.
feels like a strange way.
There's a lot of cards that just jump through hoops, right? There's a lot
Yeah.
of colorless cards that are weaker that have some kind of downside staple to them, or
Yeah.
they require you to do more things for them to be online. Like Cryptex, just like a random Karlov card that I've thought about recently. It's like you have to collect evidence 5 times, and then you can get to Surveil 3, draw 3 for a 2 mana card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 2 mana, draw 3, Surveil 3. On paper, absolutely insane. Then you read more
Yeah.
of the card, and you're like, wait, I have to tap this for 5 turns in a row, and I have to exile non-land cards from my graveyard to do this.
Yeah.
So this is the same exact thing as, I had to play Urborg in my deck. Which, by the way, people are like, well, it's not a big deal, just land in your deck. Like, you're actively devoting slots in your deck, in your mono white deck, to not playing planes, for cards that care about planes. Let me think of an example. There is a land that allows you to reanimate a creature, if you have enough planes
Control
in play.
7 planes. Yeah, it's called like a Maria or something.
Maria the Sky Ruin. It enters tapped.
Yeah.
It's a white land. If you on your upkeep you have 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Tap that white.
Yeah.
If you have Urborg in play, you are 1 land away from triggering a Maria. Your land base is strictly worse, and it's like, oh well, it's like a colorless land, right? It's the same thing. Like War Room has text on it. You can activate it to draw a card. Field the Ruin has text on it. You can also make a bunch of zombies. They have a bunch of lands in play, right?
Yeah, Field of Dead, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, Strip Mine. You can blow up a land with it in dire need. Otherwise, it makes colorless. You are playing a colorless land that has no other function except for the 1 out of 99 times you draw into your Beseech, which I think is not an issue. Is not against the Color Pie's philosophy at all. It is you going out of your way to meet the condition of the card.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, if we're deliberating on, how far you have to go out of your way to do something, that's like A, describing something that is not particularly homogeneous or disinteresting, and B, not something that is particularly powerful.
Yeah, I think
So,
this is a different video, right? But people sort of have a misunderstanding of cards being strong or not. Like,
yeah,
if you making 3 treasures off of like a strike the rich
yeah,
or strike it rich into like a, I don't know, unexpected windfall, and then you can tap all of those to play Beseech in your red deck. You
yeah,
are if that is broken to you, your perspective on power level is warped in a way that is not reflective of how Magic is played, and is in part due to just playing Commander almost exclusively. Like, playing other formats will give you a more broad perspective, right, into how power level is. And that is obviously a different video. We can talk about that for hours. But that's just the idea. It's not broken. If you think it is, you're wrong. Don't disagree with me. Yada, yada. People are going to say it about me, right?
Yeah, basically perfect. Literally.
Yeah. We have a couple of more points. So there's the argument of, we don't need to bring this into Commander. If you want to play hybrid cards, go play those formats. Go somewhere else.
I mean,
right?
that's just the annoying EDH Patriot classic retort. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. If you are hearing this video, I probably do I have permission to promote on here? I mean, I kind of already did.
Do it.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you have not already seen my video about EDH patriotism, you need to reflect. If you are making a kind of argument that is along the lines of, if you don't like it, you should go play something else, you seriously need to evaluate, your behavior, because you're effectively just doing a patriotism. So, if you were somebody who has made that argument before, please consider the words that you were saying.
Yes. I think the other thing is like it just doesn't have to be that way. If I really like cookies and my neighbor says go eat your cookies elsewhere and they're just like not even trying to taste the cookie to see how good it tastes, like just try it, man. Just try the hybrid. Even you don't even have to play. You don't even have to wait for the change to happen. Go rule zero it. Go see. Hey, is Ashiok Dreamrender ruining your commander games? Do you feel like you're having less fun? Casting an Angrath, Captain of Chaos in your zombies deck, in a Dimir zombies deck. Is that bothering you? Does that impact your gameplay in a negative way, or is it positive? Does it make your deck building more interesting? You have more tools,
Yeah.
more cards to play with.
Another
Just
really
try it.
funny thing, effectively, what you're saying as well is like, if it does become a problem, just rule zero it. We already have this catch-all fix to every commander pod that you could ever sit down at, and it's
Yeah.
called Rule Zero. Just interact with your opponents. Say, can I run this hybrid card? Because people have probably been doing that this entire time. People have probably been running Augury Adept in their mono white decks because they wanted to draw cards and gain life this entire time because they just rule zeroed it. It's really not that deep. And also, referring back to your other metaphor about the neighbors and the cookies, right? So I would go as far to say that you don't even need to try the cookies. If you don't want to play standard, you don't have to play standard. Not playing standard does not make you a morally bad person. Not playing standard or modern doesn't make you uneducated in everything, and you don't become like a bad person and an idiot, right? And not that that was even close to what you were saying.
Yeah,
Um,
you're good.
but you should not, you absolutely should not. This is very tangential. This is a little bit beyond hybrid. If you are not willing to eat the cookie, you should not condemn the cookie as tasting bad. That is definitely not one thing you should do.
Yes. I mean, this is a story as old as time, right? League of Legends is yucky. I've never played it, but I heard bad things about the game. I'm gonna shit talk it for 5 years.
Yeah.
I played Standard 20 years ago. I got my ass kicked by Leviathan, and I ever since I've hated Standard. Right.
Yeah.
This is just.
I mean, it's fallacy by affectation, yeah.
Yep. I mean, that is definitely something you've talked about in your YouTube video and your TikToks. But
Yeah.
point is, give it a try, consider it. Don't be, be open to change and be open to new things. Right? You were somebody that didn't like Magic, or you didn't know if you liked Magic, and you're like, dude, this Commander thing is awesome. I love Commander, and then you're
Yeah.
roped in, and you love it now. You would have never known if you like Commander or not unless you tried it. This is the same
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, even to get, personable, I did not play League for quite a long time. I had negative impressions that were impressed on me by memes on the internet that said League was a negative game with a negative community. And, obviously there's some truth in the fact that a lot of League players are very toxic. Like, big figureheads like Tyler One. Tyler One is obviously a very, or, historically prolific, very toxic. You get an impression that that is League players and you don't want to play. And then you sit down and it's extraordinarily different from everything that everybody said it would be. And maybe you still don't even like it. Maybe it's just fine. Because I thought League was, fine to good, but it's kind of like standard. Like
Yeah.
you could sit down and you think that the game is going to, a lot of people. I hate to bring up, our nemesis, who I will not name, somebody who's gone on record to say, to disagree with both my co-host and I. This is somebody who's disagreed with a lot of what both of us have said. They have basically made it in their mind that the 6 month window where mono red leyline was broken in standard best of one on Arena is reflective of all that standard is, has been, or possibly could be, despite the fact that it is very like obviously demonstrably false. This person, and it's a common sentiment among quite a few people who, have regurgitated this statement. Standard is I don't know. Some people like to say turn one sometimes. Like the game is just magically over. And it's just like very clearly not. Like
Might as well
go
play
play the
Yu-Gi-Oh.
format. Yeah, go play the format. Yo, don't even get me wound up about the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. They're like go play the format once and you will get your nemesis killed and not have a way of winning the game until turn 7, turn 8. Or you'll have the experience that I just did playing at the RCQ today, where I went 4 rounds against blue white control on I was on stock mono red, and I went to like turn 15. I was hoping to bolt my opponent. Like it's so comically it's so comically nuanced that if you genuinely think in a game where the outcomes are like 60 factorial times 2,
Yeah.
if you think that games are over, actually I don't even have to make a specific like condemnation here. If you make any if you rhetorical 60 card detractor EDH person believe that, fun is unique to EDH and God, how do I even say it? Uncreative, like consistently uncreative, brutally effective tactics are something that is just definitionally everything else. Like, just go play anything else once, and you will see just how quickly you are wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely different discussion. This is the same thing with hybrid and with the whole standard discussion. It's like, oh, someone posts a video. This leyline deck can kill you on turn 3 if you get a really good hand, or turn 2 if you have a really good hand. And people see that and are like, oh my god, standard's a turn 2 kill format. You can die on turn 2. This format must be unplayable. It's the same thing. Oh, you can cast Beseech the Queen in your mono white deck? That doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. That's broken. I hate the entire change. This is
Yeah,
a rotten apple making the whole bunch rotten in people's brains
yeah.
that they
Poisoning the well.
it's poisoning the well. Yes, exactly. They are batching everything together, and they're not addressing. To no fault of the people. I'm sure they're just not thinking about it, but it is in a way like not considering the nuance and the entire context of the scenario. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we should put the disclaimer up at some point here. We kind of already did at the somewhere near the beginning. If you are offended that we disagree with you, you should understand that it is absolutely not personal. If we say something along the lines of we feel that you are misinformed and or arguing from conjecture, uh, that's not in a personal attack on you just because we, to some degree, disliking or a disagreement is not necessarily disliking, is basically what I'm going to say. And this is not a
Yes.
personal attack on anybody. I know I named somebody specifically. I didn't actually name their name, but to bring them up as an example of somebody who did make an argument that I particularly disagreed with, but that's still absolutely no hate on them. Probably there's only going to be, maybe a couple hundred people that even see this video, but obviously if you know who I'm talking about, don't send them hate at all.
I mean,
This is
yeah.
not a condemnation of anybody.
You're not to the further sec. You're not allowed. You're not unallowed to like disagree. You're allowed to just say whatever. Like if you do not agree with us, that's fine. You can take your own opinions. You can talk about it in the comments. You can, what do you think? If you have a different perspective, that's fine, and we invite that. We are just talking about our perspective, our side, our information, our research, just things that our reasoning for why we see this way and why we other people should consider our perspective. Because I
Yeah.
think there's not a lot of pro hybrid discussion in general from what I've seen. Maybe I'm biased, obviously, right? Or maybe my
Yeah,
perspective is
obviously we're
good,
biased.
but maybe I just haven't seen that stuff. But it feels like outside of the people from the CFP itself, the format panel, I have not seen enough people talking about why this is a good change.
Yeah.
But feel free to disagree. We can move on to our last topic for hybrid.
Sure.
So There is an argument that Wizards allowing hybrid to be more flexible is indicative and or creates the space for Wizards to print more broken cards.
Yeah, I
Um,
kind of did touch it on it a little bit in the last segment.
yes.
Go ahead.
Go.
Yeah. No. I'm saying we should talk about
So there is the way that the hybrid change works is we're allowing more cards to be more flexible, where you can play that abandoned detachments. Rummaging spell in a blue deck or a red deck means these cards are going to be more stapley. If the card happens to be good, it'll be more dominant in the format versus it being more narrow and more niche, right? That Wizards is doing this change. The part 8 is they're doing this change because they want to print more powerful cards. Um, and the second half is that this change will make these cards more powerful almost incidentally. It's both. I think it's a mostly malicious perspective that people have against Wizards, which is I completely understand the sentiment of I don't want our formats to be power crept, right? We don't want all these powerful cards to
yeah,
change the way that people interact with the format.
yeah,
My main counter argument is I don't want it. I don't want it to sound like a scarecrow argument, but like the One Ring does exist. We have powerful one color spells that dominate formats. We have powerful colorless cards that are playable in every single deck that are extremely powerful that dominate formats. Uh, Completely redefining Commander, I would say, being on the Game Changers list, being probably the best most generically playable card advantage spell. Like you can play in your
yeah.
white deck, your blue deck, your Gruul deck, just wherever.
Yeah, I mean that's like a fantastic point in my opinion. Like we've kind of touched on it quite a few times in this video, but we haven't really come out and like exactly said it in the way that you just said it. If you dislike the change, the hybrid change, because I mean, what's their words? It allows decks to become stronger because cards become more generic. Like you're already arguing against a core aspect of the game. Like there are already just strong colorless spells, which are spells that get to go in literally every deck.
Yeah, I mean there's a kind of argument. It's like, I mean, you're just talking about the One Ring. That's just one card, right? That's sort of misleading.
Yeah, but I mean, Leyline of the Guild Pact is just one card.
Yeah, I mean we can talk about literally Soul Ring, which is format defining. It's playable in every deck. Is still
Yeah,
not
I mean, it's
banned by
practically
Game
game
Changers.
defining.
It's
Yeah,
not touched by any means. You can play in any deck you want because it's
yep,
printed precons. It's cheap, accessible. Every deck can play it. It's an easy include, makes deck building easier. It is still, if you play it early game, you have such a massive lead that you either run away with the game or people are forced to like put you in a chokehold and knock you out and make you sit in your phone for 40 minutes, right? Card is insanely
yeah,
powerful. This colorless cards being powerful is a principle that the format is built upon from its inception. From the
yeah,
it, Even from when the first precons were ever printed, with Riku and all of them and their Soul Ring reprinted into those decks, right?
yeah,
That like if Wizards, the argument is not that there just are broken cards and colorless, so it's not like it doesn't matter. It does matter if a broken hybrid card exists and it's more playable. The point is, if in the scenario where the Wizards is maliciously trying to make more broken cards on purpose to like break formats to sell sets, first of all, they can sell sets without doing that. That's a different argument. They don't have to do this change. They can just print more One Rings,
yeah.
more
This
Soul
is
Rings. They can just do
yeah,
that instead of jumping through hoops, so to speak, to make hybrid cards more flexible. It's a tall task. It's not easy to do this. They're asking people to change their mindsets. They're changing the rules of the format. They're having the CFP make all these rules, all this documentation to do this. Like this is they don't have to do this. Is the
yeah,
whole point I'm trying to make.
yeah. I mean, I think I said it a little bit ago as well. Like Wizards will print broken cards for hybrid, quote unquote. Uh, Wizards will just print broken cards, period.
Yeah.
Like I don't get how one suit dressing for one thing is going to make broken cards stem or flow. Like if they want to print broken cards, they're going to print broken cards for Commander.
Yeah.
That's not something that hybrid is even remotely going to affect, in my opinion.
Yeah. The other thing is like hybrid being more flexible. I spoke about this a little earlier. It makes
Yeah.
the designers have more knobs to twist. It makes it easier for them to print the cards in a way that they're still exciting without being format defining or super powerful or super pushed, because they don't have to think about the fact that the card is just more restricted in Commander. The fact that Pawn Profit has to be played in a Grolnak deck. It can't be played, in a, who knows, in an Azuri deck, for example, right? They can say, oh, I can design the card this way, and my design execution is going to apply exactly as it does in Commander. I don't have to make the card more powerful to compensate for the fact that it's weaker in Commander for that restriction.
Yeah.
It is sort of like having to do deliveries and you have to like make a 10-minute detour every time when you could just have it be closer to you, right? Just having an easier time doing your job, right? You want the designer's job to be easier and not harder, because you want your
Yeah.
cards to be more less broken and more fun, not the opposite.
Yeah,
You
I
don't.
mean, the classic example here is, of course, Nadu.
Yeah.
They made a last minute change to a set that was designed specifically for modern,
Yes.
uh, because of its potentially negative impacts on Commander. So,
Yeah. The
yeah.
words were, obviously.
Permanent spells as though they had flash, I believe.
Yes. Originally, it was
Yeah.
going to give your spells flash. Um, they, it's sort of a not exact quote, but they said that the card didn't feel like it would be an exciting card to play as a commander. That it didn't seem like a fun build around. So they
Yeah.
decided to change the card last minute. This was during the quote unquote pencils down phase. Mark Ruther talks about this. Basically, any changes that happen, they happen now. There is no going back. They're hitting prints. They're being sent to the factories for printing. There's no going back, right? And the
Yeah.
designer, no fault of the designer. He made a simple mistake. Not everybody is aware of Shuko or the weird interactions that Lightning Greaves has. No fault to his own. Obviously, it's his job, but Shuko is a card that only sees play in Legacy with a Cephalid Illusionist and a Cephalid Breakfast, right? If you don't play Legacy,
Yeah.
how would you know? It is obviously concerning, or just surprising at least, that they walked around the office and nobody was tipped off. But we're obviously missing the context, even from that very helpful descriptive article. Stuff like Nadu slips on the radar because of Commander, right? Commander is at fault here. Not to condemn Commander players or their lovely format, but it is much harder to print cards for Commander because of all these obtuse, arbitrary rules that make the format just unnecessarily different from 60 card, right? So
Yeah.
if I make a card called Pawn Profit that only is playable in Simic decks in Commander, I'm making a bad card that is only good in the not popular formats, right? It's just I'm going on a tangent here, but the point is let the design be easier. It is a net benefit, even if they do print broken cards. At least they are playable in more decks, so you can use them in more decks. You're not stuck playing Vivi Ornithir, right? To play a blue-red hybrid card. I mean, that's a whole other tangent about even Vivi, which is a multicolored card, is still powerful despite not it being generically playable. And it still dominates the format. That's a whole different
Yeah.
thing. But sorry for the long rant. You want to
No,
add
that's
anything?
all good. I don't think I have anything else.
So closing
That's good.
statements. I want to talk about why this hybrid change is good for the format. Um, I already mentioned why with design. It also, I think that all the cards that are not playable as is with hybrid are very cool cards. Like, they're very interesting stuff that you can play. I want to talk about this card. So this card is a neat build on edition for stuff like Jada Eret. It's Cunning Nightbonder. It's 2 mana, 2 and a black hybrid pips for flash 2/2. Spells of flash you cast cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. Normally in like Pioneer, in a
Yeah.
Spirit deck, whatever, you can just play this even though you're white blue, and it's very, it's not the best card, but it's very fun. And Commander's about fun. I think this card is an interesting enabler for your flash decks that are not in black or not in blue, mostly just not in black, right? Um,
Yeah.
and you can play those cards, right? That's interesting. I mean, there's afterlife insurance. Creatures you control gain afterlife 1 until end of turn, and you draw a card for 1 in a hybrid white black pip for 2 mana total. You can play this in a Gracto sack deck. You know, you can play this in your Zoyowa Flame Tongue decks. You
Yeah.
can sack your creatures and make a bunch of 1/1 tokens. That's awesome. I think that's fun. There's so many just neat, weird interactions that you enable, and I feel like considering the low consequence, in my opinion, that change has, that just makes the cards more playable, and it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's not going to have any major negative repercussions in my personal beliefs. So this
Yeah.
can only add. And the second thing, before I let you speak, there's a lot of new beginner products. I actually talked about this earlier. There's the beginner box coming with Avatar: The Last Airbender that has hybrid cards.
Yeah.
The hybrid change being implemented allows those cards to work the same in Commander, such that when new players play with that box and they learn the game with that box and they get good at the game, when they jump into Commander, they won't have a hard time learning the rules. This will be
Yeah.
an easier way for people who play Standard through Arena, through Draft, Limited, beginner boxes, other formats constructed in general. When they come into
Yeah. I mean,
Commander, they have an easier time understanding the game.
yeah, I think that's a tremendous point. It like specifically, I mean, not specifically with Avatar, but using Avatar as a good example. Having cards play like how they do exactly the same in Commander as they do in your introductory set, where you just, are some 17-year-old kid who is picking up EDH with their friends, it works exactly the same in your introductory kit as it does in Commander. Like, that just seems like a net positive in my opinion.
Yeah. Those were my closing statements. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. I think I covered a lot of what I wanted to say. So, I, as for closing statements, no, I think I don't have anything in particular. I think there are obviously some weird edge cases, but the important thing to remember is that if you're getting really, really caught up on, feeling like this is a bad change that's only going to lead to bad changes, it has not happened yet. You just got to take a chill pill. Sorry to be, yeah, I guess kind of a reductive statement. You just got to realize that it hasn't happened yet. We're in an experimental phase. It was just a suggestion. Nobody here is trying to reduce the way that you feel, or this is not in any way a personal insult against any of the people who disagree with us. I think you should consider that it is, yeah. I guess I'm getting a little bit repetitive. It's experimental. It's we're gonna try it and it can fail and it can all be fine. Thinking that one change that you disagree with is gonna poison the well and every other scoop of water is gonna have poison in it and it's just gonna be bad forever. It's a little bit of a catastrophization, and you gotta understand that things are actually probably going to be pretty good and pretty fine. So.
Yes. One small addendum. The EDH Redcast did talk about the article feeling a little bit disingenuous, where they only talked about the good sort of like benefits of hybrid and not addressing the downsides. And I am personally sympathetic to that feeling. I understand feeling like the community or the panel is biased in a way that they feel like they've already have their mindset. I want to say I feel like most of the counter arguments I've already addressed. They're not really super logical or substantial in a way that is very highly defendable beyond just the way that people feel. But I do understand that they are valid feelings, and I think Gavin Verhey will make an update. He will talk about what he did wrong, what he did right, and I think we will move forward. We will consider the change. I hope people that watch this podcast and are against the change, feeling against the change, do some research. There is a great article by Mark Rosewater called "The History of Hybrid," parts 1 and 2. Talks about why he made hybrid, how hybrid functions in Pi, and how it's been executed and how it's been improved. You can look at the card pool. You can test in your Commander games. I want you guys who are watching, be open-minded, right? I have considered the statements against my beliefs with respect. I'm not saying that they're wrong when I said what I said. They are obviously very valid. I do have disagreements with them, but in the end, I'm open-ended. You guys should also just consider it, right? Just give it a thought. Try it out, and if you truly don't like it, I completely understand that.
Yeah, sorry. I know we're in closing. Let me just add one more change. I think we should do a little bit of a prediction. So I'm gonna predict how I think this is probably likely going to go. I think a
Yes.
good thing that Wizards could probably do just going forward is elaborating on what, you know, how color and commander identity works. It's a little bit better. I think that would be good for everybody involved. Change or not, they probably won't end up doing the change. It seems like it's got a big, intense negative reaction. Probably not going to end up doing it. I think one thing that they can do that would just put everybody's mind at ease is specify whether or not that they're, like comfortable or not changing whether or not like you just need to be a little more definitional in what color and color identity encompass, right? Is color identity just pips and not the color of the card? Because like Lurrus is a black and a white card, for example. So it should theoretically only be playable in decks that are both black and white. So color identity, the hybrid would kind of spit in the face of that, but not really. Yeah, I think it's just important for everybody involved, obviously, I'm sure a lot of the people who are against it aren't, rioting trying to tear Wizards of the Coast down. Like they probably seem a lot more upset because we can't see their face. And I'm not to say that, people are upset or fucking crying or anything like that. But, you know, it's just important to remember that we're all talking through the internet and things are gonna feel a little bit strange. And it would probably be wise of Wizards, seeing the response to all of this to kind of elaborate a little more about what they were thinking and what they're going to do, going forward.
Yep. Totally agree. I think
So,
we said everything that's needed to be said. If you have any
yeah,
feedback, anything we missed, any arguments we feel like we didn't address properly, or that we might have misinterpreted, please, by all means, leave a comment. I will try and go through them and answer
yeah.
them. But thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Arya.
This has been Dustin.
Thank you for watching.